And a pleasant good afternoon from Bill Snyder Family Stadium, where finally there's something to smile about for the Kansas State Wildcats in their 2025 season. K-State has their first Big 12 win and their first win over FBS competition this season, a 34-20 triumph this afternoon over the UCF Knights. K-State goes to 2-3, 1-1 in the Big 12. UCF drops to 3-1. They are 0-1 in Big 12 play. This is a 580 Sports Talk instant reaction for the K-State Wildcats on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel and WIBW News on Facebook. Hi atop Bill Snyder Family Stadium in the Dev Nelson Press Box. I'm Dan Lucero. The bye week was indeed restorative in some way. Restorative thing that happened for K-State over the bye week was the healthy return of Dylan Edwards. You know, it felt like an oversimplification to say that K-State's offense was broken, which functionally through the first 4 games it was. It felt like an oversimplification to say that was just because Dylan Edwards was injured before he could take a meaningful offensive snap this season. And even when he returned for the Arizona game, he was clearly not 100% and didn't feature much in that game. It did feel like an oversimplification to say it was just about missing Dylan Edwards, but maybe it was just about missing Dylan Edwards, because this is an offense that has a lot more juice with number 3 on the field, and it looked the part. Edwards stayed 166 yards rushing on 20 carries, including a 75-yard touchdown that gave K-State a 21-point lead late in the third quarter. He ran hard. He got to the boundary. He popped some big, explosive running plays, the kind of plays that K-State has been sorely missing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that things opened up a little bit for Avery Johnson on the ground in this game. That plus a willingness to scramble gave Johnson his most productive day on the ground this season with 75 yards on his 12 rushes. The passing game was effective as well. Johnson didn't have a huge day through the air, but he was efficient, 18 of 25, 168, and a pair of touchdown passes, short ones to his tight ends, one to Will Ancio and one to Garrett Oakley. It was a much needed breakthrough for the Kansas State offense in that regard. Defensively, for the Wildcats, there was a lot of good that happened on a play-over-play basis. I think maybe UCF being on the field for the better part of the third quarter started to wear down K-State a little bit. Wildcats looked like they struggled with tempo a little bit, and splash plays were really harmful. K-State gave up a bunch of really long plays. They gave up the 82-yard touchdown and a 54-yard touchdown. So both of UCF's touchdowns were long, big, explosive chunk plays, and they were created by mistakes on the back end by K-State. UCF also had a 45-yard rush in the game. They had a 37-yard completion in the game. They had a 30-yard completion in the game. They had 402 total yards. Let's do a little math together, shall we? Those 2 long runs account for 99 yards. Plus the 82 on the touchdown. That's, let me think here, that's 181 yards. Let's tack on the 30-yard pass. That gets us to 201 yards. Yes, 201. Then 238 after that 37-yard completion. So 5 plays, 238 yards. They ran 59 plays. So they ran 54 plays for about 160 yards. So that's what I mean when I say play for play. Kansas State's defense was pretty good. They made some crucial stops. They were good on third down. They got pressure on the quarterbacks. They forced 3 turnovers. Gunnar Maldonado and Quay Moss both had interceptions, and they forced a fumble that they recovered on a 4th down in the second half. But the busts were problematic. And I think that's where it comes back to for Kansas State is there's a lot on, again, a play-over-play basis to feel good about offensively and defensively in this game. But the stuff that doesn't work is, again, K-State kind of not being able to get out of its own way. A coverage bust leading to that 82-yard touchdown. Dominic McIntosh overrunning his running lane and leading to that 54-yard touchdown on the ground that got UCF back in it before the third quarter was out, turned a 31-10 comfortable lead into a 31-17 2-score game. Those mistakes compound when they result in those splash plays, when they result in UCF taking the ball and making 238 yards on 5 offensive snaps. When you're dominating the other 54, that's great. But when you give up those big chunk plays, that's how teams score. And that's how UCF was able to put up 20 points, despite, I thought, K-State's defense, again, play over play, doing a really nice job maintaining largely their gap integrity, tackling well, covering well down the field, and pressuring the 2 UCF quarterbacks who played. Taven Jackson got hurt in the first half, came back into the game. He was 12 of 24 for 115, threw a pick. Ja'Curry Brown also threw an interception and the 82-yard touchdown on his only 2 pass attempts. So you have to take the good with the bad, and the bad is what is frustrating with this Kansas State team. Those are the things that have made this Kansas State team less than what we thought they were going to be. Those coverage busts, those missed tackles, those missed rushing lanes. But we also had been talking in the first 4 games about a Kansas State team that just didn't seem to play aggressively enough or assuredly enough on defense, and they seemed to be a lot more fast defensively, playing fast. You play fast when you know your assignment, when you know where you're supposed to be, when you get downhill and you're aggressive. And I thought this Kansas State defense, by and large, played faster in a good way in this game for the better part of the afternoon. Offensively, mention obviously the return of Dylan Edwards just makes everything better. You get your best skill player back, and it just opens up the entire field. It opens up the running game. There was another wrinkle today that opened up the running game a little bit. The debut of Blake Barnett, the redshirt freshman quarterback out of Erie, Colorado, as an extra running option at the quarterback spot. His first snap, he took the snap and ran for 11 yards and a first down. Then we saw him and Avery Johnson together in the backfield, with Avery handing off to Blake Barnett. So going to be a lot to think about if you see number 13 jogging off the sidelines for Kansas State moving forward. An element of power running that these Wildcats have really missed and haven't been able to replicate, not with Dylan Edwards and certainly not with Joe Jackson either. It was an interesting wrinkle. We saw it early, and then we didn't really see it again after the second drive of the game. We only saw it for one other play, but I'll be interested to see if Matt Wells and Chris Kleiman keep that in their hip pocket for when they might need it later on. It's an intriguing wrinkle to be sure, because again, Kansas State's power running game has really lacked this year because the offensive line hasn't been good enough, and they don't really have power backs. They don't have a bruiser in their stable of running backs right now. So Blake Barnett's a big quarterback, may as well use him in that capacity. Avery ran the ball really well. He showed more willingness to get out and scramble. I think it was the third down, the first series of the game. K-State faced a 3rd and long, and there was some boos after the second down play. Like, this was a restless fan base that filed into Bill Snyder Family Stadium after those first 4 games this season. But then Avery scrambled on 3rd down, and he went for 25 yards, and it woke everybody up. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, he can do that still. And it was nice to see him actually get out and do that. Then, of course, the drive ended 2 plays later when, inexplicably, Lincoln Cure threw a pass into double coverage. Yep, first time 5-star tight end Lincoln Cure touches the ball in his K-State career, and it's on a trick play to throw a pass. And look, I know he played quarterback at Goodland High School some. I know his older brother plays the quarterback there. Now he's a tight end at Kansas. That is not how I would choose to have Lincoln Cure's first touch as a Wildcat unfold. And he made a bad decision with the ball. He threw it in traffic, and it got intercepted, and it held up what was a really promising K-State drive. So again, it comes back to getting out of your own way, not being your own worst enemy. The ways that K-State did that offensively in this game were that turnover, but also too many negative plays on first down. I thought the 3rd down play calling was better, and fans seemed to be a little more pleased with the play calling today, but it's hard to convert 3rd downs when you're in 2nd down and 15 or 2nd down and 11. And K-State too often got nothing or less than nothing on their first down plays. That's something they've really got to get better at, making sure they can stay on schedule. Even a 4-yard gain on first down is fine. You'll take that all day, but you can't lose 4 yards or lose 5 or lose 1. And that was the case way too often for Kansas State in this game. It really solidified my belief about this team was that not that they were a broken football team completely, but that they too often were their own worst enemies, that they too often committed self-inflicted errors that were costly to them. And if they can get out of their own way, they've got the makings of a really good offense with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson and all those tight ends, all that talent at that position. Jerron Tibbs was really good at wide receiver today with a career-high 8 catches for 72 yards. No Jace Brown today. He tried to give it a go, left the game early, dealing with an injury apparently, and hopefully he'll be able to return to the lineup sooner rather than later. But even without him, the passing game was functional thanks to the connection that Avery had with Jerron Tibbs. So, add it all up, it was a convincing win today. It was a win that I think 14 points is a fair accounting for how this game went. Kansas State felt 2 scores better than a team that came in undefeated and came in off of a rout of an ACC team in North Carolina last week. So UCF, they're not the chopped liver that I think a lot of people expected they were going to be coming into the season. And Kansas State being 2 scores better than that team is a positive sign. It appears that the bye week and Dylan Edwards being healed may have been restorative to this Kansas State football team. Now, how high can they fly? I would still say probably not as high as we thought when the season began. But the possibility exists for them to gain some momentum if they take things one game at a time moving forward. They go out to Baylor next Saturday. Going to be a tough road test in Waco against a very good offense. They're not going to be able to afford some of the coverage busts that they had in this game. Otherwise, Baylor is going to make them pay. But for now, smiles on faces, pats on back. It feels good to be a Wildcat again today. And I got to imagine there is a huge weight off of the shoulders of those players and of that coaching staff in getting this win. Welcome to everybody watching this Instant Reaction Live. Jason wants to know how the crowd was. They announced over 53,000. I don't know that there were that many fannies in the seats here at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. It was a full student section at kickoff. It was an enthusiastic crowd, and it was an impatient crowd. As I said early on, there were some boos on a couple of the opening series. Avery Johnson missed a touchdown throw and then ran himself into trouble on a 4th down and short and turned that into a turnover on downs in the first quarter. And some boo birds came out here at the Bill, but it was a crowd that was what you would expect in volume for K-State. There are a lot of teams that are 1-3 in America that don't get crowds this good. And it was a crowd ultimately that was appreciative of the effort. They got really fired up for Dylan Edwards. They got fired up for Lincoln Cure, who did collect his first catch as a Wildcat. That was a crucial 3rd down conversion in the 4th quarter. So it was an enthusiastic crowd. And in the end, I think they leave happy. I think they leave feeling like I do, that not all is fixed. There's still a ways to go, and this team may just be too mistake-prone to be truly great. But they showed, I think, today the pieces exist for them to be good, for them to be a threat each week. And the offense in particular looked like it had a brand new coat of paint slapped on it with the return of Dylan Edwards. Amazing how much that meant to the K-State running game, how much more explosive it makes K-State feel on the offensive side. I'm going to get on home to my family, so this is where we're going to wrap up this Wildcat Instant Reaction on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel and WIBW News on Facebook. Thanks to everybody who watched live. Thanks to all of those who catch it a little bit later on today or this weekend. We will have another Instant Reaction following the Chiefs game against the Ravens tomorrow evening, so make sure you're subscribed to the 580 Sports Talk YouTube and following WIBW News on Facebook to be notified when we go live tomorrow. The gang will all be there, I believe, for a Chiefs Instant Reaction. And then, of course, 580 Sports Talk from 3 to 6 on Monday. We'll have a full rundown of this football weekend, including this K-State win, a gut punch of a KU loss at home to Cincinnati, and whatever the Chiefs end up doing against the Ravens tomorrow afternoon at Arrowhead. Until then, I'm Dan Lucero saying so long from Bill Snyder Family Stadium, with the Kansas State Wildcats defeat the UCF Knights 34-20 on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel and WIBW News on Facebook.